Hi, I'm Bart Hanson. I'm the owner and lead instructor for CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record every Mondays at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time. If you enjoy the channel, please hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel. Turn notifications on and you will get an email link with this full episode. And if you want to submit to this show, take a look at the information in the description.
Yeah, so this hand comes at Parks Casino in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, 2-5.
Okay, Parks 2-5. You ever listen to the show before? We get our buddy Eugene to call in sometimes.
Yeah, actually, I've listened to a couple hands from Parks. I've been trying to figure out who those callers are, but I haven't been able to.
Oh, really? Oh, Eugene puts in a lot of time. So Parks 2-5, which is what, a 1K cap or what?
Yeah, it's a 1K cap.
It's a 1K cap, okay. And then they do the Tuesday 10-10 game, right? Sometimes Tuesday 10-10 or something?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So how deep are you guys?
So I started the hand with about 1250. The main villain in this hand has me covered by a little bit.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
Cool.
So the hand starts off with fairly loose passive fish limping on the button.
Open limp.
About 500. Yeah, just open limping the button with about like 500 behind.
Okay. Open limp button.
And then I look down at King of Diamonds, Jack of Diamonds in the small blind.
Okay.
So I raise to 25 to isolate the fish on the button.
Sounds good.
And then tight aggressive player in the big blind who I've seen he plays at Parks a lot. I don't have too much history with him though, but I've seen him around. He calls in the big blind.
Okay.
And then the button also calls.
Okay, so about $75 three ways, right? And you've got the betting lead with King Jack of Diamonds from the small blind, okay?
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
So then the flop's an interesting one. It comes, I think it was like King of Spades, King of Clubs, one of those two. And then 9 of Diamonds, 6 of Diamonds.
Okay, so you flop top pair and a flush draw. I'm going to put King of Clubs, 9 of Diamonds, 6 of Diamonds. And you get King Jack of Diamonds, right?
Sure.
Okay, so pretty good flop,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah, pretty good flop. So, I mean, I decided to check this flop here just because I feel like I'm blocking a lot of the hands that are going to call me, like flush draws, straight draws, the kings, and also like King Jack. Like if I had like ace, King of Diamonds here, I would bet, but like King Jack, like I don't know if it's like strong enough to bet like for 3 streets without a flush draw. That like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I mean, I can get on board with you, but I also think the ranges are pretty wide here, though, too. I mean, yes, you make some valid points, and I think that I might do a fair amount of checking here if, like, you were UTG and, like, +1 and +2 called. You know what I mean? Something like that. Then this becomes, like, a more pure check. Here, you've got a fishy guy on the button who open limped and then called, and then you've got a big blind. I still think there's probably value in betting. And but I do, I do acknowledge that yes, you do block some of the flush draws. Of course, you can call across many sort of streets here.
Yeah, there's not really many bad turn cards.
Right.
Like I don't mind like check calling that.
Right. So okay, so you check. I think I'd bet more often than not, but you check. I don't think it's obviously terrible.
Right. So I check, and then the big blind bets 35.
Okay.
And the button calls. And then I call.
So the button calls.
Yeah.
And hero overcalls. Okay. So pot is now about 180, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Go to the turn.
So then the turn is the 4 of diamonds, giving me the flush.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you make a king high flush, and you've played it sort of. You kind of have played it like you don't really have a flush draw, right? Like you've check called. Now, you did check overcall, which is somewhat interesting because I think that you're not as wide as some people might think. Like if you had queens here, let's say you had the same thing, you had queens, would you overcall the flop?
I don't know. That's I mean,
But I think you see where I'm getting at, right? Because it's
yeah,
multi-way.
yeah,
So
yeah,
so you do have something here. I mean, maybe you sort of choose to call with like queens or the queen of diamonds or something, some backdoor, right?
yeah.
But
Queens
once
of
yeah,
Diamonds, I
once it
call.
starts to go once it starts to go multi-way. This is an interesting one here because and I have kind of screwed this spot up a lot. I would say in the last 1 to 2 years, not going back to basics and sometimes trying to play a more sound theoretical and balanced game and not necessarily knowing that I'm playing a 2-5 game, like in my 5-5 challenge, right? My 2-5 challenge, where, you know, it looks very strange if you just come out and lead turn here, right? Because it's extremely
Yeah,
hard to really balance a check call lead turn line as a bluff, right? And it also,
right,
too, I mean, it would be one thing if you were heads up and you could implement that somehow having like an ace of diamonds or something, but it's multi-way. So it's really, really hard
right,
to do that. So, you know, sort of theoretically sound, this would be a check the way that you played it. However, there still is merit to coming out and betting. And I think it's because it looks
right,
so strange, actually, too.
right.
And then it might get
That's
checked
also what I.
through. And it might get checked through.
Right,
You know, because a lot of guys, a lot of times, like I will post these, you know, sort of Instagram, social media hands up quite a bit. By the way, I think I might post that guy's hand up from last call with the aces because I want to see what people say on the
yeah.
Instagram.
Uh,
Because you know these theoretical guys on Twitter and Instagram, you know, I look at them and they have 5 followers. I'm like, who are these guys? Like they talk a big game in their theory,
right.
but it's not necessarily the most practical way to play it or the highest EV in certain situations.
Right.
So I could kind of go either way with this. What did you end up doing?
So I ended up leading the turn. So I bet 100.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so you do lead the turn. Hero leads for 100. Now, would you ever do this with some other hand? I'm going to ask you a theoretical, and it's okay to say no. Like, would you ever
Um,
make this play with pocket kings? Would you ever check call and lead a diamond when it goes bet call call?
I don't think so.
Right. You probably wouldn't, right? And you probably wouldn't make this play with like ace king of diamonds either if you were to check the flop. I don't think.
Right.
Ace king with the ace of diamonds, excuse me. Ace king off with the ace of diamonds. So, in the theory perspective, you don't really have any bluffs here. Is that unbalanced? Sure.
Right.
Sure it is. Does it matter in the sense that is this the best way to play this hand for max EV at this level? It very well might be. So you bet 100. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then the big blind calls
Okay.
and the button folds.
And the button folds. Okay. So now the pot's 380. Right? Okay. Yep.
Yep.
All right, let's go to the river.
Okay. And then the river just comes with a blank. It's like the 3 of clubs or something like that.
Okay. So low blank, black low blank. Okay.
So then I bet 225.
225 into 380. Usually,
Yeah.
it's interesting that the big blind still calls here.
Yeah.
Trying to put him on a range of hands. I mean, it's kind of a weird hand because you just don't really have that many bluffs here. Like if you have bluffs and you want
Right.
to polarize to a very strong and very weak hand, you would bet larger. But I can sort of get on board with
Right.
an in-between sizing that's trying to like target a king that's confused or something like that. So you bet 225.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then he doesn't take long before going all in. So it's like another 850 to me.
So you bet 225 into 380, and he moves in for like 1,050 total, something like that. So
Yeah.
so it's like 1,600, like 800 for you to call, something like that.
Yeah, so roughly getting 2-1.
Well, it's kind of interesting, right? Because we looked at, you know, last hand where I said, you know, second nuts here could be a trivial fold against the right type of player. Here,
Right.
you're not overbetting, right? You don't you're not overbetting the end, right? And I talked about this last call where
Right.
when you throw an overbet out there, the bluffing frequency goes way, way down from your opponent.
Yeah.
So you're betting 225 here. You sort of played the hand in a weird way where you wouldn't have a lot of super strong hands because you called the flop and then led turn, which is super confusing, and you have the second nuts here. So I think this is really, really interesting to juxtapose this hand with the other hand where the guy had second set of nines and he lost to aces full, because here I probably would call. Even though it's an underbluff situation, because you played the hand sort of in a non-standard way, you're not doing anything crazy with overbetting, and you say that the guy is a tag in the big blind, I think you probably need to call here with this hand as the second nuts, just due to the non-standard. I mean, if you're folding here, you're folding this hand, then obviously you're folding everything, which, I mean, that's a gigantic exploit to basically fold the second nuts here, right? The way that you played it.
Well, the way I was thinking, like, I mean, just like kind of like thinking about like his pre-flop range and then like his range on the turn after he calls my lead, like I don't think he has too many like ace of diamond. Like I mean, I feel like when he's raising this river, like he's either like his value hands are only flushes.
Well, I mean, I mean, the thing is, you've got king jack of diamonds here, so, but you have played it strangely. So you wonder if you wonder, like, if he thinks that you somehow would always bet off the nut flush draw on the flop, and you don't have the nut flush draw and king x of diamonds bets out on the flop, then, you know, he could jam possibly the queen high flush here for value, but it would have to be like queen 10 of diamonds, queen 8 of diamonds, something like that.
Like there's not many combos of like flushes that I beat that he could have. Like, I mean, I feel like he only has like queen 10 of diamonds, 7 8 of diamonds, maybe 10 8 of diamonds, but after that, like there aren't really that many worse flushes.
No, I agree with you, but I think I do make this call. I mean, a couple other things here too is that I don't know if he calls with ace 9 with the ace of diamonds, but say he's got like ace jack off or ace 10 off, right, with the ace of diamonds. He starts to bet on the flop, right, when you check with the ace of diamonds, kind of as a structure play. You lead turn, he calls, and then at the end, you're only betting like half the pot. And he's like, all right, I'm going to jam this guy. Because on the flip side, is he always just calling with the nut flush on the turn? Now, a lot of people will, but there has to be some frequency that there's going to be. I mean, it's not 100%. So that's why I think that this hand is slightly different, and I would call here getting 2-1. What did you end up doing here?
So I actually ended up folding.
Really?
But he later, I don't know. I just didn't feel. I don't know. And then he told me later that he ended up having the nut flush.
I mean, yeah, it's just, again, theory that you can't fold this hand. It's got to be a huge exploit to fold this hand. And I, you know, for the people on YouTube, because this will probably be a play hand as well, you know, look for the other hand, which we'll put up first, which will be like second nuts, ace versus 9-9, or we'll title it like that, second set fold. Because I think that these are different. There's different things going on in these hands where I probably would not fold. Plus, you said the guy was a tag. You know, if the guy's an OMC and he literally never bluffs in his life, that's when you can start to make these exploits. But your hand is played non-standard with the check on the flop lead turn. It just leads me to I cannot make this deviation here in this particular spot.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Hey guys, if you like what you've seen here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time we put up a new video. And if you want to check out crushlivepoker.com for the first month free, use the code YTA200. Click on the link right there.